What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to another video. So we are back with our annual step-by-step guide of how to sell on Amazon in 2025. It's a new year. We have new ways of doing things. I've just launched a product at the end of last year. We've hit 15K in sales last month, which I'm super happy about for a single product. So I'm currently in the trenches. I know what's working, what's not working, and I'm going to walk you through my strategy of how I would start from day one and teach you everything you need to know about Amazon FBA. Now, if you've stumbled across this video, you're probably interested in how to make a semi-passive income online. You may be working long hours, you want to supplement your income. That's exactly why I started way back in 2017, 2018, so I can resonate with you there. But all I would say is, pull up a chair, grab a pen and paper. This is going to be the only step-by-step checklist that you need to start selling on Amazon in 2025. Enjoy the video, guys. So the main things we're going to be covering in this video are product research, how to find a reliable supplier for that product, how to design the product and set up your business, creating your Seller Central account and registering your brand, then moving on to how to actually list your first product on Amazon. We'll be looking at shipping and how to get your product into Amazon FBA warehouses, moving on to how you launch your product on Amazon, and finally looking at pay-per-click advertising and how to rank your product on page 1. So tons of things we'll be covering in this video, guys. It's going to be an in-depth guide, so it isn't going to be a short video. I want to make this as complete as I can to give you the full picture of what you need to do to sell on Amazon. And you may be asking, who am I? If you've not watched my videos before, I've been posting videos, Amazon FBA content on YouTube and Instagram. You can see my account there. Through my Elite Academy, I've mentored over 1,000 students, helping people build brands and launch products on Amazon. Now, collectively, through those students, we have generated over £25 million worth of sales, which is quite an achievement, something I'm very proud of. I take a lot of pride in the work that I do with my members, and the proof is in the pudding, essentially, is what I'm trying to say here. And I want to show you that the work that I'm doing and what I'm delivering today is something that my students are replicating and implementing themselves, and it's working. I want you guys to have complete confidence before we start this training, looking at students' real life success stories from people. We have a 10K members club, which we've got over 100 members who've surpassed £10,000 in sales on Amazon, which is growing by the day. We can see here, huge amount of success through this exact training approach. So you guys can go and have a look at that. I've done lots of interviews with members over the years on my YouTube channel to share with you guys how we've been getting on and the success that we've been having. Now, there's going to be a pretty huge prize giveaway in this video. I'm going to be giving away a scholarship to my Elite Academy for free, strategy calls with myself for free, and also we'll be giving away 400 product ideas as well. Now, you can see below, if you pause the video, you can see points 1 to 4 here, what you need to do. But basically, keep an eye out for the code throughout this video. Comment below. We're likely to hit 50 comments quite quickly, so you've got an awesome chance of winning a one-to-one strategy call, and hopefully we'll get up to 100 comments within the first month. Comment below and make sure that you're in for a chance to win that. Let me know in the comments, how have you found the video? Has it been useful? What's your reason for starting selling on Amazon? You can literally comment anything below to be entered into that prize draw, which will be held once we hit that comment number on my Instagram account. I'll be doing a live draw, so make sure you follow me on Instagram as well, guys. Now, you know that Amazon is a juggernaut. It is a giant in the industry with e-commerce, with 63% of customers starting their online shopping journey with Amazon. Now, think about that for a moment. Over half of all online searches for products start on Amazon. Now, Amazon generate over $1.29 billion in sales per day. And obviously, our job as private label sellers is to tap into that huge potential with all of the traffic and sales that they make on a daily basis. In addition to that, around 10% of Amazon sellers exceeded $100,000 in annual sales. Now, over 50% of sellers on Amazon are private label sellers. Now, you guys may not know what private label is at the moment, but we'll be going into that in a bit more depth. But essentially, it's people like you and I. It's not big household brands. It's people who've set up their own businesses. 76% of shoppers on Amazon purchase private label products over big household brand name products. So you can see there that the opportunity to sell private label is huge. One, it may initially think that why would people buy my product? Well, people shop on Amazon based on price and reviews, and essentially, if you've got those two things nailed down with a few other things, you can compete with the existing competition on Amazon. Now, one of the reasons that selling on Amazon is so attractive is because of FBA, or fulfillment by Amazon. You'll have heard that term thrown around a lot, and essentially it means that Amazon will fulfill your orders for you, and they will take care of all of the logistical side of the operations behind the scenes. So what that means in real life terms is that you can send your product into fulfillment centers, they'll store your product, they will pick, pack and ship your product once a customer has placed an order, and they can deliver with Prime next day delivery. Now, as well as that, they'll deal with all of your returns. Now, you can see, the appeal there. If you are in a position where you're working a full-time job, or you can't necessarily commit to running a business that is going to take up hours and hours per day of your time from an operational standpoint, then having the opportunity to utilize their fulfillment services is the thing that makes this so attractive. Now, one of the great things about fulfillment by Amazon is because of the semi-passive operation side of things being taken care of by Amazon, you're able to scale the business, add products to your portfolio, and do everything from your laptop, which makes things extremely accessible to lots of different types of people. Now, most people start this with no online e-commerce experience. My students, the vast majority of them did not have any experience setting up an online store or selling on Amazon, but they were willing to learn, they were willing to put the hard work in, educate themselves, and that's what ultimately led them to the success they've had. The biggest problem I've seen over the years, whilst I've been coaching people and speaking to lots of different people, is people are scared of the unknown. They have a fixed mindset, and it's very hard to actually take action. Now, one of the ways that we overcome this hurdle is through education. So the more you learn about the process and the more confidence you gain in understanding how it works, the more likely it is that you're going to move forward and take action. So hopefully this video contributes towards that with you and you see some success. Now, we will be running an FAQ bank throughout this video. So we're going to basically touch on all of these questions at random points through the video. These are the most burning questions people ask. And yeah, you'll see them pop up as we move through the video. But let's get started. So what is private labeling? We mentioned that previously. So you understand what Amazon FBA is, you want to launch a product. There's lots of different business models when you sell on Amazon. You may have heard of retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, where you are selling other brands and you are listed on their listing with hundreds of other sellers. Now, that's not what we teach, and that is not the business model that I've seen the most success in, and from a student's perspective, have not seen the most success in either. Private labeling involves having a particular product that just comes, think of a blank canvas, right? Think of a Yankee candle without the sticker on. It's just a glass cylindrical candle with no branding. Our job essentially is to create a brand around that product and affix it to the product in question. Now, as I mentioned to you, a huge proportion of shoppers will opt for private label brands over household names, and I'll be demonstrating that to you as we move into the product research section of the video. But essentially, by operating private label opposed to the other business models, we're able to have more control over our profit margins because we are selling on our private listing. It's only us that is selling the product. We're not competing with lots of other people on our listing. Margins are much higher because of that. Now, in addition to margins, you're able to protect the product to a higher level with a trademark for your brand, which is something that I would suggest, something we'll talk about a bit later. But this helps protect your product. It gives you access to premium features on Amazon as well. So private labeling is my suggestion and something that I would encourage you and invite you to look more into. And just a quick example here, looking at the power of branding. For example, you'll go into a shop, you'd spend £12 on a Yankee candle, but there's no way you'd spend £12 on an unbranded candle that looked exactly the same, identical, just like this coffee cup we're looking at here. If you were, at a festival or if you were at a fair, you might spend £1.20 on a black coffee. If you go to a Starbucks restaurant, you are far more likely to spend a lot more money because of simply that branding being affixed to the product, even though it may be very, very similar. And, something that we teach within the Elite Academy is how to really understand the power of branding and how to create a brand that fits in line with the product you're selling and overall will dominate and create a presence within the niche on Amazon. Now, into the first FAQ, what's a realistic startup cost? My suggestion on this, to be realistic, anywhere between $2,000 to $3,500. If you hear people telling you, you can start with £1,000, I would take that with a pinch of salt. Although I have had members do that, it's not something that I like to roll out there. I don't think it's realistic. And that should be a good ballpark for you to start and launch your first product, including the product cost, images, all of the background work, and your PPC. So number one out of the topics that I've told you we're going to be working through on this video is product research. Now, product research is time consuming. It is quite daunting, especially at the early stages when you're just beginning to understand how things work. But essentially, you need to have a really good idea of what makes a good product. What are the criteria that we want to satisfy that will increase the chances of that product doing well? But not only that, how do we get ideas to find products that are in line with this particular criteria that we've got? So it's kind of a two-step approach. You've got to have an understanding, a holistic approach, and understanding of both of those things, which we'll be covering now. So I want to firstly go into some methods that we use to help you get ideas to find products to sell on Amazon. Now, one method is actually using Alibaba. Now, this is semi-unconventional method, and Alibaba is the platform that you'd usually go to source your products, to find manufacturers. You can basically find any type of product that is sold on Amazon, you will find on Alibaba. But we can sort of reverse engineer the process here and use Alibaba for a different purpose, and that's to find products. Now, think about Alibaba. They are a company that is looking to supply people all around the world with products that sell well. So what do you think they're going to be presenting on their website for people who are going to have a look for products? They want the best products that are in trend, that are hot selling at the moment, and that they have got a lot of demand for because of the demand for the product for the seller. So, let's type in, we can see here straight away, we've got a few different recommendations, but let's just go down and we'll have a look here. We'll go home and garden. So we'll go into the category, we'll click on minimalist. You can see there's lots of different categories you can go into, and we've got some ideas straight away. So if we scroll down, we've got baby beakers, we've got plastic cups there, we've got water bottles, baby beakers again. If we keep going down, we've got cutlery sets. There's lots of different products, tea sets here. Now, does that mean that all these products are viable ideas to sell on Amazon? Absolutely not. But this is the process. What we're beginning to understand here is you've got to start with an idea, right? We've got to start somewhere. We've got to look somewhere in order to analyze that product and see whether or not it is something of interest. Now, if we take a quick look at umbrellas on Amazon, just to see how they're performing. So we can see here are the listings. I have had a look at this previously, and I know the vast majority of these are private label. We can use Helium 10's plugin, which I'll be showing you shortly, something that you're going to be using when you're delving into your product research, but it'll tell you lots of different data points. The one we're focusing on here is the revenue. So this is a great indication of potential. How many sales they do per month in sales, again, fulfilled by Amazon. So this seller is going to be running their business remotely from their laptop, for example. They're not going to be actively involved with the pick, pack, and shipping of the product if they are using fulfillment by Amazon, which it will tell you here as well. Fulfillment, FBA. Any FBA sellers are going to be utilizing that fulfillment network benefit that you get through that program. So as well as using Alibaba to source products and again for product research to get ideas, we can actually use Amazon's best sellers categories. So we can have a look in here. You will notice it's Halloween at the moment, hence why you'll see products like this that are right at the front. Now, alarm bells should be going when you see that, because this looks like a very seasonal product, and that's something that you've got to bear in mind when you are doing your product research, that just because they're best sellers doesn't necessarily mean that they're great products to sell. But again, it can help you find some ideas of where to look. Now, again, if we go into baby products, for example, you can have a look at some of the best sellers. You can search for them on Amazon. You can look at products that are related to these products. So it will give you some suggestions for items that are related, or items that are similar to this product. Now, these may not be best sellers, but they may have more opportunity. You'll tend to find best sellers are more specific, so broader terms, but you're able, and again, we'll talk about this later with search terms. I don't want to get too complex at this point, but you may, for example, find a hairbrush being far too competitive with lots of sellers, but you may find a wooden bamboo hairbrush for children as something that's far less competitive with a lot more opportunity and potential, something that you get from ideas. Another great way to get product ideas is literally using Amazon search bar. So just type in anything in the search bar. So if we type in baby, for example, here we can see search terms that are popular, that are high in volume, and they're also ideas. Now, if Amazon is suggesting them, it's likely they're being searched a lot and they're in demand. So we can see here baby wipes, baby monitor, baby bath, baby Halloween costume. That's something that you'd not find at other points in the year. It's because it's being searched for a lot. Baby essentials for newborn. Let's click on that, have a look at some of the products. So we can see here loads of different ideas for products, 2,000 bought in the past month for a nappy caddy organizer. And again, this is where we would use Helium-10 to have a look and analyze these products using the criteria which we're going to talk about later on in this video. So what are some of the criteria when you're using Helium-10 that you need to be familiar with and you need to understand? And what I'm going to do is work through these things in tandem with using Helium-10 and showing you how we make sure that we've ticked these boxes whilst we're doing product research. So the first one is trying to avoid super seasonal products. Now, what we mean by that is products that only will sell well, for example, at Christmas or in the new year, or for example, at Halloween being a perfect relevant one right now. And if we go on to Helium-10, let's boot up X-Ray, which is the software tool that we're going to be using at this point. And again, this enables you to analyze product sales performance in details. Now, it overlays, it's a plugin on your Google Chrome, which you need to install. Very easy to install. Go onto their website, click the button, and it'll load up there. But we can see here a product that will be seasonal. So let's have a look at Halloween pumpkin string lights. Now, if we look at the sales graph here, it's going to show us for a 1 year period, when are the spikes in sales? When is this product selling well and when is it not selling well? So we can see here, this product between February and August, September is selling very few items per day. Not a surprise considering they are Halloween pumpkin string lights. As soon as we reach September and October, all of a sudden we're doing 23 sales a day up from 1. So a clear example here of a seasonal product. Now, not to say seasonal products are an absolute no-go area, but essentially we want to see evergreen products. We want to see products that are selling all year round. You don't want to make a mistake and launch a product and then after the fact realize that it's only selling well for a few months of the year. This can be the same with, sports gear, for example. It's not always something as obvious as Halloween string lights. It might be a mud guard for a bike that really only sells well in winter, not so well in the summer. Things like that aren't as easy to spot. So it's worth noting that down when you're doing your research, making sure that ideally we see this spike relatively stable. Now, next we need to be able to establish whether or not a product is profitable. Now, although this takes some pretty detailed calculations, if you're really getting deeper into, committing to a product, it's not something that you'll just do by flicking over it in a few seconds. But when we're doing our product research, you can have a look at products and have an idea of whether or not they're profitable by understanding a little bit more about the fees. So let's have a look at the candle example. So let's go and have a look at a candle, and we're going to look for a private label product. So here, this is sleep candles, just standard candles. And we're going to have a look at the price. Firstly, we're looking at about a £9 selling price for this product. Now, what we're able to do is firstly understand something about the fees. So when you sell on Amazon, Amazon will take a percentage cut of your product sale. Now, the two main fees are your referral fee and also the FBA fees. Now, these will differ depending on the product that you sell, but generally speaking, rule of thumb, it's about 15% for both. So a 30% cut of the total sale price for the product. Now, if we look at this example, it's selling for £9. So if we copy the ASIN, which if we scroll down, we'll be able to see the ASIN here. So you guys can do this when you're doing your product research. We're going to go into Amazon's FBA calculator, continue as guest. We're going to search for that ASIN, and it's going to give you a breakdown of what the referral fee is and also what the fulfillment fee is. Now, being able to get that information so quickly is helpful because you can jot down what you know your fees will be and deduct them from the sale price. Now, in addition to that, we'll need to consider what the cost of the unit is. So let's go back over to Alibaba and type in small candle. You can see here, that literally looks like the same product. And this is not pre-planned. I did not know that was there, but it is the product. So we'll just round this to £1 per unit. We can see between 70 cents and 120. So let's say that the unit cost is £1. Now, we're also going to need to consider shipping and VAT. Now, we're going to talk about shipping a bit later in the video, but for this example, we're just going to say a £1 fee per product for a product as light as this. So if we include VAT and duty on that, we'll put about £1.30 in. So add that to the pound cost of the product. So we'll put £2.30 in, and we can see this product has got about an 18% net margin, £1.68 net profit, which is quite low, but it is a very low sale price. Now, we've got to consider the volume of sales that this product is doing. When we had a look, we can see it's doing 2,000 sales a month. So 2,000 times £1.89, it's about £4,000 in profit. So although the profit percentage as a proportion of the total amount is quite low, because there's such a high volume in sales, it doesn't actually look too bad. So bear in mind, when you want to calculate your profits, you can use the FBA calculator. It's for free. You don't even need an Amazon account to be able to quickly work out whether things are profitable. This isn't an exact science. You'll need to spend, as I said, a bit more time on this when you are really whittling down the products of interest. So the next one's quite self-explanatory, high sales. We need to make sure that we've got high sales per month for the product in question. Looking at that last Yankee candle, we can see we've got nearly 2,000 units per month, which is considered high sales volume. Anything that sells more than 500 units a month would be considered high sales volume, in my opinion. So, try and look for products that are 500 plus. Anything above 200 or 300, if the product price is a bit higher, is not bad at all. So the next point we need to look at is the competition. So is it too competitive? You'll hear quite often, are you going into a very competitive niche? Now, it doesn't mean you've always got to stay away from competitive niches, because there can be opportunity in there. But generally speaking, we can see here the average review count is 4,000. That's very high. We've got lots of massive sellers in here that are household names as well. And typically speaking, we like to steer away from these niches that are vastly dominated by high reviews. You like to see a good spread of revenue. Now, good spread of revenue means that you haven't got X amount of huge sellers that are taking the lion's share of all the sales, but you've got a spread of revenue between sort of the top 5 to 8 sellers with lower reviews, and it's spread relatively evenly, which is a good indication that these new listings have penetrated the market and have successfully launched. So competition is something to bear in mind. It's a topical topic to discuss. You'll have lots of different opinions from lots of different people, because if there is a lot of competition, it typically means the demand is higher. But my professional opinion on that point, and from what we've seen, is we want to get into niches that haven't got such dominating listings and high competition. Now, the next point to touch on is the product being light in weight. Now, that is something that when you are calculating your fees, particularly your FBA fee, using the FBA calculator, having a lighter product and a smaller product is going to benefit you, because it's going to reduce the FBA fee per product. So, as you can imagine, if you've got an enormous heavy product taking up lots of room, it'll cost more, and they've got to ship that product. Whereas if you've got a smaller product that doesn't take up as much cubic volume, then you'll be able to save some money per unit and improve your profit margin. Now, the next one is a big one, which is differentiation. How to improve on products that you're currently looking at within the niche. Let's say you've got stuck into your research using those methods. You found a product that you like. It's got high sales, competition is medium to low. The profit margin is decent from the research that you've done. It's a product that you think you could create some solid branding around. Now you need to think about, how can we add value to this product? Put yourself in the customer's shoes. What are they looking for? What at present is missing in the marketplace that you can bring to market? You can improve on what's already there to help your product become the obvious choice when the customer's making their purchase decision. We talk so much about unique selling points and differentiation within the training. It's so important, and it's easier than you think to make improvements to a product. You can differentiate by bundling items together. So, for example, you may have a candle that comes with some sort of incense or an incense holder, or a holder for the actual candle itself. Lots of different ways to differentiate, but the product is the bread and butter. Looking at what is wrong with what's on the market. And one way of doing that is looking at reviews. So if we have a look, we're going to stick with the candle example. We have a look at these reviews here. One very effective way to make adjustments is to have a look at what people are saying. So if we have a look, the candles don't smell unless your nose is close enough to the point you feel your nostril hairs begin to burn. One candle has been lit for 2 hours and the wick is almost burnt out. So two things immediately there. The actual scent of the candle isn't strong enough, it's not powerful enough, and that it doesn't burn for long enough. Now, does that mean to say this person isn't just a bit of an idiot and maybe they've had a product that has failed at some point during the manufacturing process and isn't as good as all the others, because generally this listing has got lots of good reviews? But potentially you'll begin to spot a theme where you may see lots of reviews one after the other that show the same issue. The scented element of the candle is not strong enough, you can't smell it. Now, if you begin to spot these trends through looking at negative reviews, you can reach out to your supplier that you'll be speaking to for the product that you're sourcing and ask them to make these improvements. Not only that, I'd suggest highlighting these in your listing. People are going to be reading these reviews. 90% of people read Amazon reviews before their purchase. Now, what does that mean? It means that if people have looked at a few products, they can see where the pitfalls are, which means they're going to be looking for a product that doesn't have those pitfalls. Now, if you've highlighted that in your product listing, for example, through the images, you could have an infographic that says 4 times longer burning time and 3 times more powerful scent. That's going to immediately draw that customer in and make you stand out from the competition. So it's so important. Branding being another huge one. You'll see a lot of sellers on Amazon, just Chinese sellers that have thrown up a listing with poor images, poor branding, and something you can focus on is bringing something that's relatable, something that is really in line with the values of your company, with the product itself, that is applicable, that's relevant, that suits the product, and have a really strong brand message. What's your company ethos? Are you environmentally friendly? Do you like to use biodegradable packaging? What do you do to stand out? and incorporate that as your brand message throughout your listing. Now, another thing to consider that you've seen in the list that I've just spoke about there is trademarks. Now, this is more towards when we're talking about branding. When you're bringing a product to market, you don't want to launch a product that is already trademarked, because you'll get your product removed from Amazon, and it will also prevent you from actually trademarking it yourself, right? So it's quite important. Now, I'm not a trademark attorney, so I would always suggest seeking professional advice on this front, but you can visit the trademark Gov website. Now, when you're on this website, you can see here trademarks.ipo.gov.uk. You can search for a word. So if you've potentially got an idea for a product and you're coming up with a brand name, you'll want to use this website to do a quick search and see whether or not the product is trademarked, or the phrase or the word itself is trademarked, so you can avoid that. Now, you can trademark an actual piece of text, or you can trademark an image, or both, so you can search for both when you are looking. But if we type in Nike, for example, and we'll just simple search for Nike, we've obviously got a registered trademark for Nike. So that's an obvious one. But when you're looking at private label brands, when you're coming up with quirky ideas for brand names, you may think no one's got them, but I would highly suggest doing a search or getting some advice on that front to make sure that you've protected your brand by avoiding clashing with someone else. Now, it's not even just exact trademarks, it can be names that are similar. So do your research on this one and make sure that you've got that box ticked. So moving back to helium-10 very briefly, looking at some of those points there, they are the things, some of the criteria you need to consider. And again, if you combine that with the suggestions of how to find products using the methods that I mentioned, you're going to start to find very interesting products. And when a product presents itself and you see an opportunity to launch a product, the excitement is huge. I have students emailing me on a daily basis with product ideas. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. But when it's a good one, and you think, wow, this is all of the things that I want a product to be, and I found somewhere to source it, and I want Dill's opinion on it. The feeling of the prospect of bringing something to market is incredible. I've been there, I've done it, I know what it feels like. So combine those two things together and you'll put yourself in that position. But overall, X-Ray is a good tool. Using it in line with that criteria will help, but it does break down lots of different things. You've got your sales graph looking at the consistency of sales over the year, your revenue, your bestseller ranking, which is just your ranking within the category, low being good. Whether it's fulfilled through FBA, what their star rating is, for example, the review count, lots of different things that you can utilize with helium-10. I have actually got a discount for helium-10 that you can use in the description below, so make sure you make a saving there if you do end up opting to use helium-10. Now, another tool that you can utilize with helium-10 is Black Box. So we'll use the analogy here. When you're using the previous tool we looked at, X-Ray, it's more manual, you're going into the trenches, you're spending a lot of time looking at individual products. With Black Box, it's almost like casting out a net, but the net only catches specific type of fish. Think of the fish as your product. So we're able to set parameters, and that helps us narrow down the type of products that we see. Now, if we know what we're looking for from understanding the product criteria and understanding what we're trying to find in products, then we can really harness the power of this tool properly. So make sure you set the marketplace to where you're looking for, .co.uk or .com. We'll have a look at this example for baby products, and we'll look at home and kitchen. So again, we can see here the understanding now of hopefully what you've been making notes on and beginning to process is that we can't just look for any old products. We really need to have an idea of what parameters we need to set here. So let's have a look and feed some of this in. So I want to see products with a maximum review count of 500. Remember, we spoke about reviews being important. More reviews, typically more competitive. Review rating. Well, we want to see listings that have got some negative reviews so we can try to ascertain and establish what issues there are with the product so we can capitalize on that and make improvements. So let's put a maximum review rating of 4, meaning there's going to be more likely to be negative reviews. Price point, I like to usually set the maximum at about 60. People who purchase on Amazon are ready to purchase customers, meaning that they go there ready to buy. Now, typically that price range for ready to purchase is between 0 and 30. However, I'm not completely opposed to a £60 sales price, because as long as the sales volume is there, you have to check that, make sure that they are selling consistent units and the volume's there. There's no harm in upping that price here. Monthly revenue is all relative. You know, you may have a seller who's established many listings looking for much bigger revenue numbers, or someone who is on the other end of the spectrum. They're just starting, they're not as interested in a product that may require much more investment and has got a much higher monthly revenue. You may have to place a much larger order for that product. They're much more happy with a more modest figure. So we'll use 3,000 for that. The weight we mentioned, lower weight, lower FBA fee. So we'll put £3 there. All of this contributes towards profit margin. So we'll use those parameters for now, these filters, and we'll see what comes up. And the difference is this: it's instant. It does it for you. We've cast that net out, and all of a sudden we've got these products that have popped up. So interesting, we mentioned seasonal products, autumn wreaths. Now think about this. What do you think about an autumn wreath? Do you think it's going to sell in the summer, spring and winter? Probably not so well. Something that you may not have thought about. You see this, you think it does £5,000 a month. Great, we're going to launch it. All of a sudden you hit January, no sales. It seems obvious, but when you're getting started, these things aren't as obvious. Let's go down. A candle. I didn't pre-look at this, but we've got a candle here. 8,000 a month in revenue, 4-star rating. £10.79 sale price. So lots of different products. And you know, one of the things we wanted to see here as well was looking at the negative reviews. So the reason we put that in there was for that purpose. So let's have a look at this listing, a seat cover, sofa cover, waterproof sofa covers. Now let's have a look at the reviews for this listing and see what the problem seems to be. Look at the 1-star and 2 stars. Purchased this product for a brand new sofa from Spills and Pets, and the waterproof or water resistance is what made me buy it. One spill and it's leaked straight through. Now, if this product is, you know, advertising as being waterproof, and that's something they're promoting on their listings, which presumably they are, yes, they need to make sure that the product is waterproof. So again, that waterproof element may be something that you'd want to discuss with your prospective supplier about improving upon the product. So, you know, you can see, guys, here, there's so many products that are popping up here, and we've got 20 pages of this. Ideas. Now, what I like to do is feed these ideas from X-Ray and Black Box and put them into a spreadsheet. So we're going to do that now. So what we'll do is we'll copy the ASIN in, and we're going to put that into an Excel spreadsheet. So we're going to put in here potential product ideas for 2024. We'll broaden that out a little bit there, and we'll put the ASIN in here, broaden that out as well. I don't like to just put the ASIN. I'd also put in what the product is, because again, you may build this list out to sort of 20 or 30, at which point you're not going to have a clue what those ASINs are. So we can see here that we've got that. Now, I also like to put the revenue amount in here as well, just so we've got an idea of what the monthly revenue is there. So we'll pop that in. Now, if we have a list here, you can see we're going to have underneath this lots of different ASINs, the type of product, and then the monetary figure next to it for you to revert back to. When you've, for example, gone through a few weeks of product research, you may have 7 or 8 products here, and you begin to compile a pretty detailed list. You can add, and this is what I do, and we've got training on this in the course, just how to lay it out. I would put headings here, column headings, and you can add in the supplier link. So once you start speaking to suppliers on Alibaba, you can put the link in there of who you've been talking to, their contact details, etc. So that's something that I like to do here, just to keep on top of what's going on so you don't get lost, because it is very easy when you're looking at so many products to just forget where you are and what you've been doing. So that would be my my advice there. Now, another tool that I would suggest using for product research is Magnet. So this tool actually is categorized as a keyword research tool. However, you are able to use it for product research. Now, we spoke earlier about keywords, and you can have a broad search term and you can have a longer tail search term. So for example, that previous product, a blanket, the word blanket would be something that's quite broad, right? It could mean a lot of things. People could be looking for a weighted blanket, a baby blanket, an adult blanket, a red blanket, lots of different things, which means it's much harder to compete for that term because people who are looking for it don't necessarily know what they're looking for. So when you're spending money on advertising, it's harder to rank for those terms because it's not specific enough. So if we type in something, so we'll type in blanket, just like the product we just found, the weighted blanket, and we're going to search for get keywords. Now, what this is going to do is provide us with some ideas for longer tail keywords. So we can see here, keyword phrase. So now we've got kids blanket, blanket for kids, boys fleece blanket, children's blankets. Some of them will be completely irrelevant, like Poundland, cable blanket. We can order these in terms of their trend, so what's going up in trend. So a dual electric blanket, probably because we're getting into winter. You can also order them in descending order for search volume, so you can see the things that are searched for the most. So this has got 70,000 searches a month. Heated blanket, 52,000. We can go down, see if we can find. So what we can do here, let's have a look and see if we can make a little change here. So we're going to change the word count to 3. So we want to see at least 3 words here, basically, meaning it's going to be more specific. So electric blanket double, that now has gone from electric blanket to being more specific to a double blanket, which usually means the search volume will go down, but there'll be less competition. You see competing products here will be less than if we were to just look for purely electric blanket. So Magnet is a good way to take some of the ideas from your Excel spreadsheet, pop them into Magnet, and see if any further ideas stem from the initial one. And again, looking at related products on Amazon as well, I mentioned you're able to search for them directly, and it will tell you what other similar products are purchased at the same time. So guys, these 3 are the sort of the fundamentals, right? Black box, X-ray, and Magnet are 3 really, really useful tools. Understanding how they work. Remember to use those parameters, use that criteria, make sure you've made full detailed notes on that for when you go and get stuck into this research. So that's the section on product research. I don't want to spend too much time on product research because we could be here all day. I have got multiple modules of product research within the Elite Academy mentorship training course, but this is pretty detailed for you to be able to get stuck in and have a really good idea of what you're looking for. Now, the next thing you're going to need to do, you've done your product research, you've decided on a product, you're going to need to find a supplier for that product. Now, I mentioned to you, Alibaba is a great source for manufacturers. You can find almost anything there, and you'll find them at a fraction of the price of what you can source it for in the UK, for example. It doesn't necessarily have to come from Alibaba. There's AliExpress, there's China.com, there's lots of other places. And it doesn't necessarily need to come from China, but typically this is where the bulk of products are imported from, with over 2 million products on Alibaba. So we'll have a look, just for argument's sake, for an example, we'll have a look at a weighted blanket, and we'll see what suppliers we've got available here. And it's likely to be a lot, 30,000 products from a weighted blanket. Now, I would suggest doing a few things at this stage. Firstly, I'd go and tick the box of a verified supplier, which means it's been independently inspected by a third-party organization. It just gives you a little bit more reassurance that the supplier that you are sourcing from has got a bit more credibility. You see here, you can click on that if you want, and you can see with credentials, and they've been inspected by third-party companies. I would also select trade assurance. Now, trade assurance is essentially a form of protection for your payments. So if you were to purchase the products and they weren't shipped on time, or they weren't shipped at all, or they were of a substandard to what your sample was, you're protected fully using this platform. All good suppliers should be able to offer trade assurance. If they don't, I would find it a little bit suspect and I would stay clear. Now, other things to look out for when you're looking for suppliers, ideally 4 years plus on the platform, so 4 years experience. You can see if you hover over that year mark, it tells you what their annual sales are, so you know if they're generating a large amount of orders through their customers, so people are buying the products a lot and probably repeat purchasing as well. It's a good way to check that. And again, if someone's been on the platform longer, they're likely going to, if they've got an established presence on the platform, they're going to be more reliable. So I would definitely do that. Reviews as well. There's no excuse for not looking at reviews. You will find on Alibaba that you can have listings that, have got huge amount of annual revenue, but don't necessarily have a huge amount of reviews. But at the same time, it's something that you want to look at. Reviews are important, and I would check those out. If you go onto the listing as well, you're able to see what the company's called, so you can search that company on Google, have a look when they were established, for example. You can reach out to them, see if they've got a private website. Do they look legitimate? Does their website look legitimate? Do their products look legitimate? If you can't ascertain that just from the listing here, I would certainly, just to be safe, look the company up as well. Now, one thing you're going to see at this point with every supplier is a minimum order quantity. So you can essentially take from that is what is the least amount of units you can order. Now, if you're looking at a product like this, 10 to 49 pieces, $8.50, goes up when you're ordering between 50 and 500 to $7.90. So you can reach out to this supplier and ask them what's the minimum amount of units you can order. And this isn't the same as a sample, which we'll get onto, but you need to, with every product idea that you're looking to sell, order a sample, test the product out for yourself. Is it robust? Does it meet the claims that the company is outlining? So for example, a weighted blanket, is it the right weight? Is it the right size? Is it the right color? Sampling is important. Minimum order quantity doesn't refer to samples of one, which you can get from nearly every supplier. It's more referring to how many pieces can you order in your first order as a minimum. So you might think, I only want to order 10 pieces, but you won't be able to, because they'll specify a minimum of, say, 50 or 200, for example. What you'll find as well is if you want your brand name on the product, we call this OEM, you will find that the minimum order quantity goes up a little bit. They'll send you generic products with a lower order quantity, so something to bear in mind, because you will want your brand name on the product. So you can literally click contact supplier, chat now, you can reach out to them. I'd suggest adding them on WhatsApp if they have got WhatsApp. Just super quick conversations to be had at different times of the day that may not be as quick as it is on Alibaba. You know what it's like, super quick to send images, videos, and ask lots of questions. Helps you build that rapport with the supplier, which is very, very important. Ultimately, you may be using this supplier for years to come. You want to ensure the best prices. So yeah, definitely ensure that you try and add them on WhatsApp. Now, on to pricing. Pricing is always negotiable. The more you order, the more it will go down. But at the same time, it's always worth talking to them about the price. Even if they say here, this is the price between 50 and 499 pieces, I'd always suggest haggling, and without being rude, asking for a 10% deduction for your first order. And there's always room for negotiation with these things, especially if you're placing larger orders. Now, in terms of how many units should you order, I'd usually suggest at least 2 or 3 months worth of stock. So looking at how many units on average sell per month, especially for newer listings that have just launched with sort of under 100 reviews, how many are they selling? How many can you expect to sell? And cater for a few months, because the lead time is likely to be 30 to 50 days. So if you haven't got enough stock to cater for that lead time, you're going to go out of stock. So something to bear in mind. The next point that's super important at this stage, once you've established a supplier, is designing the product and the actual branding of the product. How do you get your brand name done? Now, I personally I'm a big advocate for outsourcing. When people do things better than you, right? When it's a skilled service like designing a logo, there's no point spending days and days trying to come up with a logo and try and design it yourself on, an application online that isn't very advanced. Pay someone to do it. It's a one-off purchase for something like a logo to be designed. There'll be your brand name and the logo to be designed. So invest in that because you can reuse it over and over again with this, within that brand. So if we have a look on Fiverr here, you can literally type in brand logo design, and we can have a look here. We're not going to click there. So have a look at different sellers here. If you want pro services, they'll cost a bit more, but you can look at those. Typically for something like your design work for the product, I would not necessarily need to go for pro, but look at that. What an awesome front cover photo there. That would make me click on it. It could be something to do with mental health, for example. And you can have starting packs to start a logo with 2 revisions for £43. Now, how long would it take you to think about that? Design it, think of the colors, the layout, probably a long time, unless you've got a lot of experience in it. So for something that costs as little as that, do your research on Fiverr, have a look, see what different options there are out there, weigh up your pricing as well. Obviously some are going to be significantly cheaper than others, but outsourcing is important in this game, right? Whether it's to outsource your Amazon advertising, whether or not you invest in a course and a mentor to help you do all of these different things along the way, whether it's your logo design, whether it's your product images for the actual listing itself. You don't want to be doing these yourself, right? If you create substandard branding and imagery, then you'll have substandard results. So yeah, design of the product, you can get that done here. When it comes to actually the design and the colors of your product on Alibaba, that's something you'll need to discuss with the actual manufacturer. So you go in gray, white, or blue. Do you want any modifications to the product? Possibly you want the quilting stitching a bit narrower to stand out. You might want a different material that's used for the product. All these things need to be discussed and agreed with the supplier prior to placing the order. Now, when you are actually placing the order, always negotiate a 30-70 split. 30-70 meaning a 30% deposit, production begins, 70% 4 weeks later when the units are ready to be shipped. That's something that can save you a bit of money and free up cash flow. Now, the next thing you're going to need to do is set up your business. Now, how you operate is up to you, and it depends on your position and what your preference is, but there are some important things that you need to consider when you're sort of getting to the stage. Now, a lot of people look at, setting up a limited company. Wow, that sounds like such a huge thing. I'm not going to be able to do it. It must be really complicated, but it's not. And a lot of people will look to set up a limited company over running the business, for example, as a sole trader, just purely for tax purposes. You're able to make some pretty big savings if you're generating high amounts of revenue and profit per year, which is the ultimate goal for the business. If you're running a limited company, you're able to make the most and capitalize on corporation tax, the percentage for corporation tax, opposed to having a much higher taxation if you were to take the whole amount as personal income as a sole trader. So it's something to think about. My suggestion would be to set up a limited company. Can be done in literally about 5 minutes. Rapid Formations is my suggestion. There's a link below for a discount with Rapid Formations. It's not very expensive, $12.99. They've got a dedicated helpline that you can ring up and have a chat with them about the process. But essentially, they'll do everything. It'll be fully approved within 3 to 6 hours. They give you your digital PDF copies of the company documents, a free business bank account, which is optional, a free domain name, which you may want to create for your products. For example, if you've got a brand name ready, the product ready, you may want to create your website at that stage. You have free telephone support for the life of your company. Lots of different benefits here, and it's really, really simple at this stage. Now, when you're setting up, if you choose to set up a limited company, all these details will be inputted into Amazon when you create your account, which we're going to get into. But you want to think about what your company name will be. Now, when we come to brand name versus company name, what I like to suggest is you keep your company name generic, right? So I might put Future TRX Limited as the company name. Completely pulled that out of nowhere. Future TRX Limited. Doesn't mean much. It could sell anything, basically. Your brand name, on the other hand, needs to be much more specific to the product, right? So if you were selling socks, Comfy Sock Co. may be the brand name. Now, Why you don't want to have your Comfy Sock Co brand name as your company name is because if you choose to diversify down the line and launch lots of different branded products, if you're selling them under Comfy Sock Co, they may not make any sense. If you wanted to sell pens under Comfy Sock Co in 8 months' time, it's not fitting, it's not relevant. So keep the company name generic, and in that way, and by doing that, you can have lots of different brand names that can all be very different, but they fit all underneath that generic company name. Now, the next part of this process is very important, and I've seen so many mistakes made at this stage with setting up your Amazon sellers account and it causing pretty massive issues down the line if you were to get things wrong. So really pay attention and make some notes with this part just to make sure that you don't miss anything. So when you set up your Amazon seller account, firstly, you'll need to consider whether or not you want to go onto a professional plan or an individual plan. Now, those are the two plans. My suggestion is to opt for the professional selling plan. It costs £25 a month, but if you intend on selling more than 35 units a month, it's more cost effective because with the individual plan, you pay 75 pence per unit as a fee for every sale. So if you sold 100, you'd pay £75 per month. In addition to that, you can't use services such as advertising if you're on an individual plan, and you will need that to launch. So you can have a look at the professional plans and the individual plans yourself. Just by going on to amazon.co.uk, you can see here the individual versus the professional, and pretty much what I've just said is outlined underneath here. So you'll need to consider that because you'll want to know that when you're setting up your Amazon account. But what to expect? So you're going to need to provide quite a bit of information about yourself, your identity, provide them with some documents along the way, and lots of details about your business. So broken down into 3 steps. We'll need to collect relevant personal and business information to comply with identification and verification measures, blah, blah, blah. We may require additional information or documents. We'll verify what you've submitted, and then once you're verified, you can get ready to sell. So you'll need to prepare and expect to be able to give them a valid government ID or a passport, driver's license, recent bank account or credit card statement, a chargeable credit card, and your mobile phone number. So firstly, they're going to ask you for your business location and business type. So self-explanatory, your business location is looking at where your primary place of business is, what country, so the United Kingdom, for example, and your business type. Now, we mentioned previously, looking at a limited company would be a privately owned business that you'd choose here. If you were a sole trader, you would click none, I'm an individual. Now, when we go down, you need to put your full name in. Now, this is so important. Any spelling errors on this that will not match up with your passport will cause big issues. If you omit your middle name, it will cause big issues. Make sure that you are exact and you don't make any errors or typos at this point. Again, they'll ask for a number of personal details, your driver's license, for example. So put in your primary contact person information. So if that's you, your first, middle, last name, country of citizenship, country of birth, identity proof, passport is preferable, but driver's license is absolutely fine. What your residential address is, again, make sure that that is accurate, not out of date, not a previous address. It is correct, and they will want to verify that with a text message for the phone number. So make sure you get that right. Billing information. You'll need a valid bank account number, which you will have set up by this point. Really important that your bank account is in the name of the primary contact or business name. So if you set up a company and then your bank account is not in that company name, that you're not going to be able to use that bank account to set up your seller account. So make sure everything is matching. Something to remember here, continuity between them all. Credit card, you'll need to have a credit card number and a valid credit card so they can a chargeable method for them to charge for your monthly fee. So when you add your bank account details down here, this is where your payments will come in, which are fortnightly from Amazon. So you want to make sure again that this is accurate. You don't want your money going somewhere that it's not supposed to. They will ask you to verify your bank account as well, which is quite easy. They'll send you an email through to verify. Credit card for the monthly subscription fee, the £25, nice and simple. Now, once that's done, you begin to list your products, which we're going to go into. How to list a product, what you need to consider in the back end of the listing to make sure it's accurate. Now, how to list a product on Amazon. This section of the video is going to be very useful because when you're doing this, it's quite easy to overcomplicate things. They ask for a lot of things. Some of them are not essential, they're not required, but you only need to fill in the things that they actually ask for and the things that are important. Once your account's verified, you go into your Seller Central, which you'll now have access to, and click Add a Product. From here, if you're selling a new product that's not on Amazon, it's your own private label branded product, you click I'm adding a product not sold on Amazon. Next, it'll ask you what category you're selling in. Make sure you get this right. It needs to be the correct category and subcategory. So, if you are looking at selling baby jumpers, make sure you're going into baby products and then baby clothing and then jumpers to list. Now, that'll be the category and subcategory. And why is it important to have the right categories? Well, if you're selling a baby product but you've listed in electronics, then when someone goes into their Amazon app on their phone or onto the website and they're searching within the baby products category, they won't find your product if you've listed within electronics. So that's very important. Now, they'll ask for some vital info. When you are considering your options for your title, remember it needs to be specific to the product and it needs to be keyword dense, keyword rich, meaning that, if you're selling a baby jumper, you want to have done quite a significant amount of keyword research using Magnet on Helium-10, having a look at the keywords that have got high search volume, the keywords that are highly relevant to your product, to make sure that your product title contains these keywords, because this is going to help you index ultimately for the product when people search those keywords. If you put the wrong keywords in here, when someone searches for your product, they won't find it. Now, the manufacturer would be you or the manufacturer that you're using, so put in who the manufacturer is. Your brand name, again, we mentioned about trademarks. I'd suggest trademarking your brand name at the earliest possible stage to protect you from hijackers, to give you access to A+ content, features on Amazon. Your brand name goes in here. Now, you may get an error at this stage, error 5665, which basically means they want to approve your brand name. Quite easy, they ask for photos of the product with the brand name affixed to it, which you'll have from your sample that you can send them to get the brand name approved. Manufacturer part number, just make it up. Literally create a part number for your product and put it in. You can imagine if you've got a baby jumper, what part number is not really applicable, but put it in there. And the package quantity. Now, it'll also ask for a product ID. This is essentially going to be gained from GS1. They will issue you with a GTIN number, which sounds very complicated, but it's not. It's a single number that is assigned to your product that you use when you create the listing, and it will be forever linked to that product on Amazon. If you're a new seller selling private label, you can apply for what's called a GTIN exemption, which you'll see when you get to this stage. There'll be an option to apply for that, which means you don't need a product ID. Now, with your product, you may have variations. So if you're selling baby jumpers, for example, you may have different sizes or different colors. At this stage, when you're creating your listing, you can add these variations in. Variations are a good way to differentiate, so it may be something that you want to consider when you are launching your product. Now, selecting your fulfillment channel is important. Are you opting for FBM, fulfilled by merchant, which means you've got to pick, pack, ship and store your products? Or are we using FBA? FBA is my suggestion. Utilize what they offer. It'll make the process far smoother and enable you to be more hands-off and not so hands-on with the operational side of things and focusing on growth. Next, you get to uploading your product images. Now, product images are very, very important. Again, I would use a freelancer on Fiverr to create your product images. You can often have some very high resolution, high quality infographics, creative shots, images for your listing. Don't cut corners with your images. Try and take them on your iPhone. It's not worth it. They are one of three main things that customers will look at: reviews, price, and images. So make sure you've got this right. You'll find lots of freelancers who can offer a good service for a cheap price. Your supplier may also be able to give you some HD stock images, which you can send to a freelancer on Fiverr to save even more money. Now, when it comes to the product description, this is where you are able to showcase your product. So what are the features and details? How are you going to describe the product? Go and have a look at your competition. Use them for inspiration. Don't copy what they've done, but have a look at the way they've laid it out. Have a look at the key features of the product. If a lot of them are similar to yours, reword them. Make sure that they are keyword dense and keyword rich, meaning all of the keywords that are applicable for your product. If you're selling a baby jumper, all the words that have got high search volume, that are highly relevant, are peppered throughout this product description without it sounding too wordy, I should say. Make sure that it's keyword dense, because again, that's going to help you index when people are searching for you on Amazon. Now, on the back end, you're going to have an opportunity to use these keywords from your keyword research to put into the search terms section of the listing. Now, again, it helps with ranking, it helps with visibility, it helps with indexing you within the search terms. So make sure, again, you've used Magnet, done your proper keyword research to find highly relevant, highly searched for terms, and put them in the back end of your listing to help with your ranking. Now, when it comes to shipping, you are going to have a few options, but the main two are opting to ship by air or by sea. Sea typically takes 25 to 40 days, whereas air freight can be as little as 10 days. Now, that is reflected in the price. Air freight is considerably more than sea freight, so you'll want to explore those options. But let me save you a lot of time and energy with your shipping. Find a good freight forwarder. A freight forwarder essentially acts as an agent between you and your supplier. They deal with picking the goods up, bringing them over to your designated fulfillment center. They deal with all the paperwork. They will tell you exactly how much VAT and duty you've got to pay coming into the country, the figure, and they make it a seamless process. I've got lots of recommendations for freight forwarders, so if you're interested, comment below. I can give some details of some freight forwarders who offer competitive prices, usually a lot better than what your supplier offers. Now, I usually opt for X Works with my shipping. So my freight forwarder essentially contacts my supplier. The supplier makes the goods readily available in a specific location, a warehouse in China, and my freight forwarder picks them up, brings them over here. So you don't pay anything to the supplier directly for shipping. I go directly to my freight forwarder. There are lots of options for shipping. You may opt to ship with your supplier on a DDU or DDP basis, which means delivery duty paid or delivery duty unpaid. Both essentially end up the same way. You pay the same amount, but with DDU, you will pay your import VAT and duty. With DDP, the supplier will pre-charge you for it and you pay them for that when you place the order for the goods. But my tip would be use a freight forwarder. Don't overcomplicate the shipping process. Don't stress yourself out. There's absolutely no point. So when it comes to launching your product, essentially our goal is to have a successful launch, drive sales, gain traction, improve ranking, and get to the first page. Lots of words there, but we'll explain a little bit about it here. Now, that's done through lots of different things. So firstly, you need to make sure your listing is in a position to perform. So there's no point starting advertising if your listing hasn't got the groundwork, the foundations to make advertising successful and effective. So firstly, you need to consider reviews. Your listing has to have reviews to launch properly. So I usually recommend between 10 and 20 reviews before you start your advertising campaign and advertise your product. Now, these reviews can be gained in different ways. Firstly, you can do a giveaway locally. You can ask friends to review the product. Stay well clear of family because it can cause issues with your account, people who are linked to you. But if you've got friends who want to test the product and leave a legitimate review of that product, a non-biased review, that's one way to build up your reviews. You can also utilize Amazon Vine. Essentially, you can enroll in that and pay as a seller, and Amazon will give your products away. You can get up to 30 reviews and you'll get reviews from Vine customers who are given free products to review. So reviews are key. Make sure that you have not overlooked those. Quality product imagery, we talked about this. Make sure we don't go substandard. Keep HD pristine images, infographics, creative shots of the product in action. Make sure that your listing does not fall below a top standard for imagery. Now, pricing, we tend to avoid what's called stampede pricing, which is just pricing the same as everyone else. You want your pricing to be competitive. I personally prefer launching at a slightly reduced price from your intended sale price, just to help drive sales velocity for the first few weeks. Again, a well-written and descriptive listing with keywords. We talked about this. Make sure you've done your keyword research and it's very and you've got keyword dense description, product features and details, and keywords in the back end. Differentiation is also important. We've talked about that, making sure you've added value. Now, step 2 is your Amazon advertising. Now, you may choose to outsource this. You may choose to hire a freelancer, or you may educate yourself and run your own campaigns. But PPC is, in my opinion, a vital part of your launch strategy. It's something that should be implemented from the moment you hit that 10 to 15 to 20 review mark. Typically, people will spend with one product as a new starter £10 to £15 a day for the first 2 weeks to 1 month. They may then look to slightly decrease it or increase it depending on performance. Optimizing your Amazon PPC is something, it's a skill, it's something that you, with experience, gets a lot easier. Again, at the stage that you're at when you're getting started, you may want to hire a freelancer. Your mentor may offer PPC services to help you optimize your keywords. But essentially, when you're running your advertising, there's going to be keywords that are effective, that are working well, that are converting to sales. Now, those keywords you're going to want to spend more money on and try to harness the power of the converting keywords and get rid of any wastage with keywords that are not performing too well. Facebook ads and giveaways, something slightly more advanced, but you can drive traffic to your listings through Facebook ads. If you're confident doing that yourself, by all means set them up. Amazon does favor traffic from external sources. It helps you rank very well. Step 3 is scaling, adding products, research, expanding to different platforms. You can create a Shopify, Wix store, using your knowledge from creating Facebook ads to drive traffic to your new website. But essentially, we're looking to repeat the process over and over again with multiple products to grow your brand, your presence on Amazon, and your overall revenue. There's a lot to the launch phase, and we've looked at it in a summary here, because I could do another 2-hour video on launching a product, but this gives you the fundamentals, what you need to think about, what you need to consider when it comes to launching your product. Now, the code is here, 6736278. Email me at info@amazonsupremacy.com with that code, and I'll send you your free 400 product ideas. But we've come to the end of the step-by-step guide to sell on Amazon. And guys, for those of you who are very serious about starting this and who would like personal tailored support to work with me directly, I do have a mentorship program and digital course that is brand new for 2025, the ECOM-HUB. You can have a read on my website here. There'll be a link to it below. Have a look. We've got an early bird price of $295 and hundreds of student results. You can have a look at what's involved, the curriculum. These are all videos that you can rewatch. Step-by-step method of exactly what you need to do in its entirety from step 1 to launching the product and growing it into a successful brand. So as part of this, you have direct mentorship with me as well. So I help you on a daily basis with any burning questions, any ideas. You join our private mastermind community. So any questions about that, guys, have a look at the website, reach out to me below. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.